first way, it says day 4. The day 1, they already had the conditions, and we just added them. The next day was, we had same digit, we just didn't have opposite signs, so we multiplied one row by a -1, right? Yesterday, we had word problems where we took the information from the word problem, set up both of the equations, multiplied by -1 if we needed to, and then solve the problem. Today gets a little bit tricky. So if you have your multiplication tables in your agendas, take those out and have them ready. Because what you're going to need to know is the members of your fact families. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in and see if we can solve this. So take the next 30 seconds, take out your agendas, and find your multiplication table. All right, so if you look, I have 16x and 8x. I have 1y and 2y. So neither of those have both those requirements, right? These are both negative, these are both positive. I have 16 and 8 and 1 and 2. So neither one of those is going to be able to give me that situation that I need. They don't meet the criteria. What's my first criteria? Same. Only one person in here knows? So now 3 people in here know. 4 people. How about everybody say it? So Manuel, what are my 2 criteria? Saul, what are my 2 criteria? Chloe, what are my criteria? Welcome back, by the way. You've been gone a while. All right, so I need both of those criteria in order for this to work, okay? And if you look at these 2 equations, they don't have it. But I can easily make that happen. So 1 and 2, those are probably the easiest right now. How do I make a 1 a 2? I'm going to use multiplication, hint, hint. What do I need to multiply a -1 by to make it a +2? If I multiply it by a -2, then that's going to become a +2, right? Well, then that solve my problem here, right? I could also do the 16 and 8 if I decided. It's really almost the same thing, right? Can I make an 8 into a -16? By doing what? Multiplying it by what? -2, right? -2, because I wanted opposite sign. Correct? That's what I need to look for. I need to look for those members of a fact family that are going to work for me. Okay? And this one's straightforward because I've got those members there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take that top row and I'm going to bracket it. And then we said if we multiplied it by -2, we'd have a +2 here, right? So I have to multiply everything using that distributive property. What is a -2 times 16? No. -2 times 16.
Oh.
-32 minus 32x. A -2 times a -1y becomes what? +2y. A -2 times a -10 becomes what? +20. Okay, I'm only multiplying that top row, then I'm going to bring that second row over. I have a +8x, a -2y, and a -20. Now I'm going to solve this problem by using addition. I'm just going to add them. Okay, What is 32x or negative 32x plus 8? This is negative, this is positive. Am I adding them or am I actually subtracting? So what's 32 minus 8? So is it going to be negative or positive? Minus 24x. Plus 2y minus 2y, what happens? 0, right? Bring down my equal sign. Positive 20, negative 20. Also 0, but I need to bring down that placeholder on the right side. How do I solve this? How do I undo this? Divide both sides by what number? By what number? Negative 24. Make sure, Angel, I'm paying attention to that minus sign. It may not make a difference in this case, but it might. So what does x equal then? X equals 0. 0 divided by anything is 0. You have nothing. You can't divide nothing into more nothing. Okay? It's always 0. If it's underneath, then you have an issue. You can't divide by 0. It's undefined. All right, so let's take that x equals 0 and plug it into one of those problems. Which equation? That's a smaller 8, right? It doesn't really matter because it becomes 0. So could I just maybe do the top one because then y is just y or negative y? Yeah. This I have to divide by 2. Really doesn't matter. Pick one. Pick one and do it. So we're going to substitute x into the bottom one because that's what somebody said. But I don't have to. I could have used the top one. Just make sure you're plugging it into the original equation and not the one that we changed. Okay? So 8 times 0 is 0. Right? So now I have a negative 2y equals negative 20. I can undo that by doing what, Angel? Both sides by a negative 2. Thank you for paying attention to that minus sign. Make sure you bring it down every time. You guys are lazy. Oh, man, lazy. You don't want to actually do the minus. And you think you know it in your head, and then you get confused or you forget, and you didn't put that minus sign, so you get the wrong answer. Make sure you bring down that minus sign. This becomes a positive quan. What is a negative divided by a negative again? So 20 divided by 2 is? So my y is 10. So I can write this up as 0, 10, and that's the ordered pair that I am looking for. Easy, right? So instead of negative 1, you have to find what you're going to multiply one of those rows by. And sometimes it won't be negative. So let's look at another example. So let's look at number 2. Everybody have this? I can slide it over. Let's look at example number 2. Okay? Look at my numbers. 7 and 14, not the same, but do they have opposite sign? Okay. How about 7 and 5? Same digit? Same digit? No. Are they members of a fact family? Can I turn 7 into 5? I can't, right? Can I turn 7 into 14? I can turn 14 into 7, right? But I can't turn 5 into 7. So I'm going to focus on my x's. They're already opposite signs. How do I turn 7 into 14? So I can multiply this by a negative 2? Or positive 2? Positive 2, because they're already opposite signs. Right? So then I just bring this over. I have negative 14x minus a 7y is equal to 7. Now I'm multiplying this by a positive. So 7 times 2 is a 14, positive 14. 2 times 5 is a positive 10, y. And 2 times a negative 14 becomes a negative 28. So when I add these together, my x is going to eliminate. Absolutely, they're just going to cross out. Because negative 14 plus 14 is 0. If I looked at 14 on that number line and I went to the right 14 spaces, I'm going to end up at 0. Okay, they're going to wipe out. How about a positive 10 and a negative 7? What does that give me? Positive 3, right? My 10 is my bigger number. I could also use column method and figure out that I'm going to subtract 7 from 10, and they're going to be on the positive column. So this is going to give me 3y. Now I have, again, a negative and a positive. I'm adding them, but since I have a negative and a positive, I'm actually subtracting, right? So what's my bigger number? Negative 28. So my answer is going to be negative. What is 28 minus 7? So my answer is negative 21. Can I undo this now? How do I undo this multiplication here? I'm going to divide both sides by what number? Positive 3. Good. This becomes Quan. Why? Quan shy, we let him hide. What is negative 21 divided by 3? It's a negative. 21 divided by 3 is 7. So now that I know that y is going to equal 7. Which one do I want to put my y equals 7 in? Top or bottom? Which one, Dominic? Top or bottom? Why? Who else said bottom? Clarissa, why bottom? You said top? Somebody else said bottom. Why bottom, so? Look at the equations. Why would I choose the bottom instead of the top? Anybody? Less numbers? I haven't touched it yet. That could be a good rule. But let's look at the equation on the top. It says negative 14x negative 7y equals 7. Atta girl. Okay, finally. How many negatives are on the top one? 2. How many negatives are on the bottom one? When do you guys make the most mistakes? Dealing with negatives, right? So which one would be the better one, have least amount of opportunity to deal with a negative? So let's use the bottom one. 7x plus 5, and instead of y, in parentheses, we're going to do a negative 7. Equals negative 14. What is 5 times a negative 7? What's 7 times 5? So 7x minus 35 equals minus 14. How do I move this negative 35? Adding the opposite. Your list. Go to your list. Plus 35. Plus 35. Leaves me with 7x because this eliminates. What is the difference between 14 and 35? Here's where having a calculator comes in handy for you. Or using a T-chart. I don't care. Column method. I have 35. I'm going to subtract 14. That's going to give me, oh, look at that, 14. Negative or positive? Why positive? It's bigger. 35 is the bigger number. The bigger number is positive. Can I now solve this by dividing by 7? So what does x equal? 2. So if I write it in an ordered pair, it's going to be 2, 7 in parentheses, and then I'm boxing my answers. Okay, so number 1, I had to multiply by a negative. Number 2, I already had that opposite sign criteria, so I just multiplied by a 2 to get that same digit. I did not have to use a negative, right? Now let's look at one more. Let us look at Let's look at number 8. All right. So let's look at my x's. Same digit? Opposite sign? Opposite sign. That's one of them. But can I turn a 2 into a 9? A 9 into a 2? Let's try the y's. Same digit? Same digit? No. Can I turn a 3 into a 10? Can I turn a 10 into a 3? And they're not opposite sign. So I'm going to focus on my x's because these guys are already opposite sign. That means I don't have to multiply by a negative. Okay? Do they have, now here, go to your times table chart. Look at your number 2's. And look at your multiplication factors for 9. You should look at them now. Do any of them, are any of them the same? 9 and 15 is not member of the same fact family, and actually they're not fact family for either. 18, right? I heard 15. Did you say 15 or 18? Okay. Old ears. Speak up. Or raise your hand so I see it. Okay. So 18. 18 is probably the smallest number, right? So that means that I'm going to have to multiply 9 by what? 9 times what is 18? 9 times 2. But I'm also going to have to multiply 2 by what? 9. So I'm going to have to multiply both my top equation and my bottom equation in order to get same digit opposite sign. Okay? So 9 times a negative 2 is going to be negative 18x. 9 times a positive 3 is what? 27y. And 9 times a negative 14, I don't know that in my head, so I can multiply it. What is it? It's going to be a negative 126. Right? And here's when I pick my battles, guys. I don't do math without my calculator not very often. I mean, I can do this 9 times 14 on the side here, or I can use a calculator. If you're doing this, show your work. If you're not, write it down. Here's a battle that I choose not to fight. I say use a calculator, just so I need to know that you know what to do. Yes. I'm not there yet. Okay. So now a 9 times 2 is going to give me a positive 18x. 2 times 10 is going to give me a positive 20y. And 2 times 16 is a positive 32. So now, does my equation have those two requirements? Do I have same digit opposite sign? Yep. Thank you. Oh. Right, so now I can actually finish this equation. Can you guys finish the equation? Okay, so those are the 3 separate type that you're going to have today. You're going to have where you have to multiply the top and bottom by a member of the fact family or a number. Sometimes it's going to be each other, but not always. I'm trying to find one here that you won't have to do that. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys finish this because you know how to do this. Okay, but I want us to look at number 9. Look at number 9. Let's look at those numbers. I'm going to have to multiply one by a positive and one by a negative, correct? Right, because they're both the same sign. But 7 and 9, now I can maybe find something, but maybe not. What are my multiples of 7? Look at your multiplication table. I've got 7, what? 14. What's my next one? And then And then? And then? All right, so let's look at my 9s. I have 9, and then? And then? What is it? And then? And then? So it doesn't, I'm not seeing a connection there. Are you?
No.
And this is something that you could also do. If you're thinking, well, let me try these guys. Otherwise, I'm going to have to multiply them by each other. And those are some mighty big numbers, right? We're up here pretty big. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to erase this because, yeah, that didn't work for me. Let me look at my 10 and my 8, though. Okay? Let's look at my 10 and my 8. I'm going to start with 8. What are my family members of 8? 8, and then? 16, and then? And then? And then? Wait a minute. 40? Let's try my 10s. 10. Oh, wait. Those work, right? So I can use 40, right? So 10 times what is going to give me 40? So if I multiply my top row by a 4, what about my bottom row? 8 times what is going to give me 40? No. 8 times what is going to give me 40?
5.
But one of them has to be negative. Pick one. It doesn't matter. Let's do -4. But so doing this is another way, using that multiplication chart, finding your least or common multiple. Okay? Where are they most common? Where can you use the smallest numbers? Because I didn't have to multiply this by 8 and this by 10. That would have given me some really big numbers, right? I found 5 and 4 to work. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah? So using this, listing your factors to find that common one is going to be helpful as well. All right? I'm going to let you guys go. You have 12 problems. We've done 2.5. We didn't finish this one. This one you just need to multiply it out. So I've done part of the work already. That gives you leaves you with 8 problems to do all on your own, and then finish off the last 2. Question? Question? Yes, come on up.